Welcome to Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And joining me one last time for the 2025 season, my co-host, my good friend, Stephen Young of Rotor Grinders, better known as Stevie TPFL. And this week, we're previewing the NASCAR championship race at Phoenix Raceway here on Running Hot. Before we get to Phoenix, of course, we have to talk about how we got to Phoenix, and that was at Martinsville, where William Byron, in a must-win situation, took home the win with a late pass, a nice little bump and run on Ryan Blaney. Blaney called it a totally fair move. He would have done the same thing. So William Byron, better car at the end of that race at Martinsville, takes the win over Ryan Blaney, who was also in a must-win situation. He finished second, and must-win Chase Elliott finished third. So the three must-win, I should say three of the four must-win drivers, along with Joey Logano, finished first, second, and third. Logano came home eighth. And then for the final position, it was a points battle between Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell. Kyle Larson finished fifth. Christopher Bell finished seventh. And Larson got a few extra stage points. He only needed to make up 1 point on Christopher Bell. So that was good enough to get Larson in as the fourth and final entrant in to the NASCAR Cup Series championship race at Phoenix. So the final four are Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, William Byron, and Kyle Larson. And that means Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and Chase Elliott are eliminated. Stevie, talk about Martinsville.
I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a good race. We saw it was Ryan Preece, right? Ryan Preece from lap 300 to lap 400, did a really good job of maintaining his stuff and did a really good job of making passes, and the tires were enough where there was a lot of passing. I thought for Martinsville with the next gen car, it was one of my favorites, if not my favorite race. So hats off to William Byron, hats off to Ryan Blaney. I think it's so easy to look at what happened at the end of that race, but Ryan Blaney started in the back. He had a terrible qualifying effort. He struggled in practice, and he came out and they just made all the right adjustments, and he drove through the field. I mean, we had a guy start 31st, go up there and lead 177 laps. That's unheard of at Martinsville with the next gen car. So kudos to them. I thought William Byron was the best car all day. At times, I thought Blaney was really good. I thought Chase Elliott had speed. I thought Ryan Preece was one of the best cars. We talked about his top 10 bet at +3 something last week. So that was a good bet. But yeah, happy for Byron. I think the move at the end of the race was a racing move. He didn't wreck him. He was much faster than him. He kindly moved him. And I think that is a respectful move. There's a lot of respect between William Byron and Ryan Blaney, and I think Blaney would have done the same. I think anybody in that situation would have done the same. So happy we didn't get any dive bomb situations. And even, I know we don't talk about Xfinity, but hats off to Sammy Smith. He wrecked Taylor Gray earlier this year, and Sammy Smith was in a must-win situation in the Xfinity race, and he raced him really clean at the end of that race. He could have dive bombed and wrecked him again, but I just want to give proper shout out. He learned, right? He really wrecked Taylor Gray earlier this year. Yeah. And I was really happy to see Taylor Gray get his first Xfinity win. So just wanted to talk about that with Martinsville as well. But yeah, very excited for Phoenix this week.
Yeah, all three, series, we had some really wild events. The truck series, man, that came down to 1 point between three or four trucks, I should say, for the final spot into Phoenix as well. With unfortunately Lane Riggs being left on the outside looking in. But that's what this format does, right? It's not all about how many wins you have across the season. It's what you do in a little 3-race stint here. And that's what got Christopher Bell knocked out. I mean, Christopher Bell finished 3rd, 8th, and 7th in this round and didn't make it to Phoenix because he didn't win a race in this round, and finished behind Kyle Larson in points because Larson had an advantage just from the regular season playoff points. And that's why those regular season playoff points matter so much. They carry through the playoffs. And, Larson had a 26th place finish at Talladega in this round, but still was ahead of Christopher Bell in points. That's how much, getting those regular season wins, those regular season stage wins matters a lot, because that was enough to secure Kyle Larson over Christopher Bell after Martinsville. And I think you're right. The move between William Byron and Ryan Blaney there, totally fair. Completely agree with you. I think that was a racing move, and Blaney completely agreed, like I said. And then also, you mentioned shout outs to Ryan Preece. Ross Chastain finished 4th, which is his best career Martinsville finish. And also for, when you're talking about the most exciting Martinsville race, I will still say the wall ride was the most exciting. I actually thought that whole race was really good because that race did have some fall off as well and some passing late. So I think this one and wall ride from 2022, where he also finished 4th, kind of, I wouldn't say illegally because it wasn't illegal then, but it's illegal now. 2 4th place finishes as his best career finishes at Martinsville for Ross Chastain. So just a couple shout outs there. Like you said, Ryan Preece, Ross Chastain, a couple guys that weren't, contending for the playoff. Josh Berry came on really strong. He started in the deep 20s. And another shout out to Todd Gilliland, 9th place finish at Martinsville. He seems to do it every time we come to Martinsville. He's either in or near the top 10. So great if you bet him for a top 10 finish for Todd Gilliland at, I would say this is definitely his best track as well. But Stevie, we have our final 4 for Phoenix: Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Kyle Larson. So 2 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas, 2 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolets. No Team Penske Fords, no Fords in general in the final 4 for the championship race. We still will have, of course, it's not just a 4-car race. We still will have the 34 other chartered cars. I should say the 32 other, not chartered cars, but full-time cars. And we'll have 2 part-time cars as well. So we'll still have a 38-car field. But those are our championship 4. Talk about, before we even just talk about Phoenix itself, just talk about this championship 4.
Really strong 4. I mean, we talked about it last week on how this 8 seemed really strong. Like there wasn't a undeserving person in the top 8. If anybody, Joey Logano, he's a champion. He's never undeserving. But the season that he had wasn't as good as some of the others. So, I mean, you look at this 4 and you're like, well, Briscoe has been one of the best cars in the second half of the season. William Byron has been consistently fast all year. Denny just keeps doing it. And then you got Kyle Larson, who's one of the best racers of our generation, who really, probably his standards, hasn't had like a fantastic season, but has just been consistently inside the top 5. So you look at this group of 4 and you're like, yeah, I mean, all of these guys I feel like deserve a chance to win a championship. I'm sad. I had Blaney Betts, I had Bell Betts, and both of them had chances. I mean, and they just didn't get there. So I'm happy about the Final 4. I think it's fantastic. I know there's been a lot of talks about like how the playoff format might change next year. And I think if it does change, we're ending on a really positive note. We're ending with 4 drivers that have had speed all season, that all 4 of these guys deserve to be there. So, I'm happy about this 4, and I think it's going to be not only a good race, but I also think it's going to be a good battle for a championship, and you're really going to have to earn this year's championship.
I agree. Super strong Final 4, but I am sad that Christopher Bell's not in it. He even said this was his best chance ever to get a championship because the tracks in this year's playoffs set up for him perfectly. And if you look at the final 8 races, right? So we had 9 playoff races, but if you look at the final 8, he had an average finish of 4.75 and didn't make it to Phoenix. He had a way better playoffs than Kyle Larson. He has a win. He has that way better average finish. I mean, Kyle Larson's first round, he finished 19th, 12th, and 32nd, yet still made it through that round. And he's been a lot better since 7th, 6th, 2nd, 26th, and 5th. But Christopher Bell had the stronger playoff, but the way this playoff sets up, the consistency isn't quite as important. If this was the chase, Christopher Bell would probably be leading the points. If we had a 10-race chase, in the old 10-race chase format, Christopher Bell would probably be leading going into Phoenix if we reset everything going into Darlington based off the way these drivers have run the playoffs. So feel bad for him because he's been so consistently strong, but he doesn't make it through to Phoenix. This Final 4, though, it's up there with the heydays where it was Harvick, Truex, and Kyle Busch for like 3 or 4 straight years, plus one of like Logano or Keselowski or Hamlin, that kind of deal. So this is right up there with some of the strongest Final 4s we have ever had. Chase Briscoe, like you said, strongest driver arguably in the whole second half of the year, and great at Phoenix. I mean, he got his first career win at Phoenix when he was with Stewart Haas Racing. He's had a lot of other really strong Phoenix runs, and Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole has really performed at Phoenix since they went to their new body Toyota back at the start of 2024. We know Christopher Bell has been the dominant car across the 3 Phoenix races we've had, with Ryan Blaney being the other major dominant car. But Denny Hamlin, also in a JGR Toyota, is going to be really strong at Phoenix. He finished second there earlier this year. Larson finished third at Phoenix earlier this year. He has a championship win at Phoenix from a few years ago. And William Byron, he's been strong everywhere. He just won Martinsville, which is one of the better comps for Phoenix. So, I think this is going to be a really, really strong Final Four. So let's talk about the racing at Phoenix, Stevie. Phoenix, a 1 mile track. We call it flat banked. It is mostly flat banked, just as far as, the banking. It's not the flattest track around, but it's also not really banked enough. It is 11 degrees in turns 3 and 4, 9 degrees in turns 1 and 2, 9 degrees on the front stretch, and 3 degrees on the back stretch. The front stretch, of course, having that dog leg as well. So talk about racing at Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time we come to Phoenix, we have a new tire. We had the option tire earlier this year where we saw, that matter. And then coming this weekend, we have that softer tire that, we kind of saw last week. The right side, it was the right side at Martinsville. And then we had the full setup at New Hampshire. So, I mean, Phoenix is a really interesting racetrack. I mean, you kind of just described it perfectly. We have wild restarts. I mean, that's what it's kind of known for with this like dog leg kind of corner. We go 4 or 5 wide, and then it's, get 2 or 3 wide. And you see guys running on the apron all the way down by the apron wall to try to find grip. And like, are they pitting? Like, that's what you're always thinking. Like, if this is a video game, you're always a little nervous about like when you're playing a video game, if you accidentally go on pit road kind of thing. And like, I just feel like that's the best way to describe it to like people that, might not understand how Phoenix works. But yeah, it's a very unique racetrack. It's a short flat track, but it's still, a mile. Like, so speed is going to matter. But yeah, I like Phoenix. I don't think it should be the championship race, but I do like Phoenix. So I'm excited for this race.
Yeah, I like Phoenix. I agree. I think it's good racing, and we've seen you can really get on somebody's outside and try to make a pass, or you can try to do the slide job on the inside and make a pass. So you have multiple grooves at Phoenix. We go back to a couple years ago, Ross Chastain doing his aero blocking out in the lead. He is the only driver, Ross Chastain, to have won at Phoenix that also wasn't a championship contender. And that goes all the way back to Homestead, too. The championship race has been won by one of the 4 championship contenders every single time except once. So, Stephen, we're talking about handicapping this race. What special things do we need to think of in the championship race itself?
Well, I think 2 things that we have to think about. One, like JGR is usually really good here with like Bell, and he's going to be very respectful for his teammates Hamlin and Briscoe. And the other, like the Hendrick side, like Chase Elliott has had a lot of success at Phoenix as well. He's going to be very respectful for Larson and Byron. Chevy's going to be very respectful for those 2. Toyota's going to be very respectful for those 2. But that gets to my second point. You have Ford, who doesn't have a car in the championship 4. I mean, yes, I think they'll be respectful, but if you're Ford, if you're Penske and you've been as dominant as you have at Phoenix and winning championships lately, like your goal, you have one goal this weekend, and that's to win the race. So I do think they'll be respectful, but I also think Ford really wants to win this race. It just gets to the argument of like, is this championship the right championship? Because I mean, Ryan Blaney's been one of the fastest cars all year. So that's my biggest handicap notes this week. Obviously practice, we talk about that all the time, but like my biggest handicap notes this week is like Chevy's definitely going to be respectful of the 2. Toyota's going to be respectful of the 2. Ford is going to push a little bit more. It was Ross Chastain a couple years ago where he was really fast here and he respectfully won the race. I think you could see a very similar situation from like a Blaney or Logano this week where they're respectfully saying peace out to these guys as they go by them to win this race.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting because I agree with all that. I think Ford they're going to try to do what they can do to win the race. They're not going to meddle in the final four drivers there. They're going to try to, Blaney is not going to put the bumper to Chase Briscoe or something like that to shove him out of the way. He'll try to pass him as clean as possible because you don't want to be that guy that causes one of these drivers to wreck out. That stains your season a little bit. You're not running for a championship yourself, and that gets remembered going forward. Those kinds of things. And, no driver wants to do that. It could accidentally happen. There could be a wreck in front of the championship drivers and they don't avoid it, or, things happen. It's racing. Somebody could blow a tire and get into a championship driver that way. Or, these things can happen. But by and large, everybody's going to be mindful of who the championship four are. Obviously, if Christopher Bell's running ahead of a William Byron or Kyle Larson, he's going to try to make it hard on them because that's going to help Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe, and vice versa. If Chase Elliott or Alex Bowman is running ahead of a Denny Hamlin or a Chase Briscoe, he's going to try to make it hard on those guys just because it helps their teammates. So we will see a little bit of teammate stuff. It's not going to be, I don't think, anything egregious. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind, we are looking at New Hampshire and Martinsville as the two kind of short flat track races we've had recently. Gateway as well is kind of a mile and a quarter. You could throw that in there. But Toyota struggled at New Hampshire and honestly struggled at Martinsville. So that makes me a little concerned for Toyota at Phoenix. Again, New Hampshire and Martinsville have the shared factor of being two straightaways with two 180-degree turns and both much flatter. So that could be a factor. We also had the tire deal being similar at New Hampshire and Martinsville. So a little part of me is a little bit concerned for Toyota, which would be Briscoe and Hamlin. And on the flip side, Hendrick Motorsports was really good at New Hampshire and really good, obviously, at Martinsville. And Ford has been great at both of those, with Blaney arguably being the best car across the two of those races. So just something to think about going into Phoenix. I didn't know if that crossed your mind at all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, New Hampshire is the biggest one because I feel like New Hampshire is one of the biggest or best comps. And if we just look at like raw speed, there wasn't a Toyota in the top 5 in raw speed. And we know how good short flat tracks are for like a Bell, a Hamlin, Bubba Wallace. Like Bubba really struggled at New Hampshire. So I definitely think that is a fantastic point. The only other thing that I'll throw out there too for teams not racing this weekend for a championship, like Phoenix is race number 4 of the next season. And like we've seen teams like RFK, like I wouldn't be shocked if you see like multiple different setups on teams now where it's like, hey, there's a good chance that this softer tire combo is what we have next year at Phoenix in race 4. Like, how are we going to get in the playoffs next year? So I think that you could potentially see a lot more testing this weekend because, like, again, you want to be respectful, but if you hit on something, it's okay to go win this race. Like, at the end of the day, like, your sponsors and everybody wants you to go win this race. So I just wanted to throw that note out there, that just a reminder that, like, race number 4 next year is Phoenix. So this is a big race for 2026 on top of how big it is, obviously, for this year for these playoff teams.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. There will probably be, like you said, RFK doing some testing, etc. But RFK Racing does have a battle between Chris Buescher and Ryan Preece for 17th in points, which is not anything. There is an extra incentive for being the first driver in points outside of the playoffs. If something happens to Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece will win it. And if nothing happens to Chris Buescher, he will win it. So I think Buescher's team probably puts a little safer setup just to try to not lose that spot with a catastrophe. And Ryan Preece goes aggressive. So I think there's that little subtle dynamic as well in play. So yeah, just want to give a shout out to Buescher and Preece for being 17th and 18th in points. They cannot be caught by 19th, which is Ty Gibbs. Another RFK car, Brad Keselowski, rounds out our top 20 in points. And then we have Michael McDowell and Kyle Busch tied for 21st in points. So still some things to go for here. Getting into that top 20 is still possible for McDowell and Kyle Busch. You definitely don't want to finish outside the top 20. So there still are incentives here in play for some of these drivers that aren't in the playoffs. And you have guys like Josh Berry, who wants to get another win. We know this is a good track for him, or an Austin Cindric, or, some of these drivers that aren't in the playoffs. Austin Dillon, for example. So we have drivers, because look how strong Dillon was at Richmond, which again is a good comp for Phoenix. Maybe not the best because of the tire wear, but still somewhat similar. So there's still a lot of incentive going on here for a lot of different drivers, and some of these guys could definitely pop and be competitive. Any other thoughts? I know we've got a lot to talk about because it is the championship race. Any other thoughts? Maybe I know when we get to our bets, we're going to be talking about some top fives, things like that. But any other thoughts around like specialty markets or just any other thoughts in general for this race?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, odds this week are going to be very skewed towards the Final Four plus Blaney, plus potentially Bell. There might be some like situations where you could bet multiple things and still make money if you like increase your odds. Obviously, you're not going to chase like 4, 5, 6 units with those types of bets, but I mean, there's going to be bets this week where you might have 2 drivers you really like for a top 10 that are both like plus 300, that type of stuff. And you could bet both of them and increase your odds. And like, all you need is one of them to make money. So you see that a lot at like Talladega and Daytona, some road courses sometimes, but like a week like this where you're going to have it's going to be so skewed towards the championship 4 plus Bell plus Blaney. So just kind of look at that kind of stuff and play team math on some stuff when you're betting this week, and you'll be able to take advantage of some stuff a little bit more than you would on like a normal typical week.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think all that stuff, these top 4 drivers will absorb a lot of the win percentage, which often translates to top 3, 5, and 10 percentage that they'll be absorbing a lot. And then add in, like you said, Blaney and Bell, especially. And those top 6 drivers are going to be absorbing a huge chunk of win, top 3, top 5, top 10 probability, that it should allow some of these markets to open up. But I think another market that's really interesting is top Ford, because Ford doesn't have any things to worry about, right? Ford is Ford. They're going to go out and race, and may the best Ford win. So I think they're, if the market is really, really undervaluing Blaney in some way in a top Ford market, he becomes great. Or if they're overvaluing him, then some other Fords might become interesting. So just shop around, especially in the top Ford market. I think it's really going to be hard to bet like a top Chevy or a top Toyota market, because it's almost certainly going to be one of these championship drivers or Christopher Bell in the Toyota market, so very tough there. Just wanted to comment on some alternate markets, just because I think there's a lot going on here with those. And I don't have this as a pick, neither do you, but when we think about that RFK situation, upside for Ryan Preece is a market I'm really interested in, because we know they're probably going to go aggressive to try to get him that 17th in the championship. And this should be a good track for Ryan Preece. It's always good at the shorter flat tracks. So a lot of things to think about, but Stevie, I think it is time to dive into those bets. As always, we'll drive through the race stage by stage. We'll give a shorter odds pick in stage 1, then another pick in stage 2, a little bit longer odds. Finally, we'll race through stage 3 and end up in victory lane one last time with our combined favorite bet for the 2025 season. So we're going to throw the green flag for the championship race and fire off for stage 1. Our first stage, Stevie, we are going to, both of us, some non-championship drivers. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Ryan Blaney for a top 5 at plus 105. I like this a lot. I think that he's probably my favorite to win this race. I mean, if you look at what he's been able to accomplish at this racetrack, 6 top 5 finishes in the 7 races here with the next gen car. And he was running, I think, 5th or 6th earlier this year before his engine blew up, and was one of the best cars and ended his streak of like top 5 finishes here. So Ryan Blaney, just kind of a little, I wouldn't even say he's undervalued in general, but I really like where this top 5 is, getting it at plus money and looking at he's first in speed here by a good margin over Byron and Bell with the next gen car. He was really fast at New Hampshire. Like, we know that this is going to be a car that's going to be contending for a win. We saw how fast he was in New Hampshire. This car was set up well in advance of not making the championship 4 at last weekend at Martinsville. So I think Blaney's coming with a championship-ready car. I mean, I feel good about betting his top 5. I think you could bet his top 3. I think you could bet him to win this race. So lot of interest in Ryan Blaney for me this week at top 5 at plus money. I'm just going to go ahead and take this one.
I like it. Ryan Blaney will be, so good here. He's incredible here. If you look, again, before the start of the 2024 season, when both Ford and Toyota went to new bodies, I watched that preseason testing session. Christopher Bell ran away with it, but then Ryan Blaney ran away with second place, and that's all they've done since at Phoenix. Those two have just run away with first and second in terms of speed. Obviously, different things happen throughout the race, but just in terms of raw speed over the 3 Phoenix races, it's Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney that have been the 2 best drivers. But Bell has some things to consider with his teammates there, whereas Ryan Blaney does not. So you went to Ryan Blaney, non-championship driver, for a top 5 finish at plus 105. I am going to Ross Chastain, non-championship driver, for a top 10 at plus 130. And a couple things I really like about Ross. When we talk about that little shift at New Hampshire and Martinsville, he was on the good side of that shift. He had better results than he's had in the past at New Hampshire and at Martinsville. And he's been fantastic at Phoenix throughout his career. If we look in the next gen era, Ross Chastain at Phoenix has finished second, finished third, finished 24th. Then he finished first as a non-championship driver. He was, again, the only one to win a race as a non-championship driver. He finished 6th, and then he has finishes of 19th, and then earlier this year, 11th. But they've been improving on these shorter flat tracks in the latter half of the season, and this is a strong track for Ross Chastain. And, outside of those top 6, you could argue Ross is the best at Phoenix. Those top 6 drivers, you could argue Ross is 7th at Phoenix in some way, shape, or form across the whole next gen era, right? So those 7 races at Phoenix. And we're getting plus 130, and shop this around. There may be even better odds. I haven't fully shopped this yet. I haven't made the bet yet. If you haven't seen me track it in the Action app, it means I haven't made it, but I will be making this bet. I just need to, once we get off this podcast, fully shop this around. But Ross Chastain, I'm seeing plus 130 odds at FanDuel. I love this one. I think just, again, with that recent form and how strong he was at Martinsville, especially, which, again, isn't the greatest comp for Phoenix, but being strong at Martinsville has led to being strong at Phoenix, as we talked about last week, Stevie. So I like Ross Chastain plus 130, top 10.
Yeah, he was borderline a top 10 car speed-wise at New Hampshire. This is a really good racetrack for him. I bet this already as well. I know you said you hadn't, but I bet this at plus 130 at Hard Rock. So, I'm always on Chastain when it comes to this racetrack. He is fast here. He has consistent top 10 finishes. So I'm always going to take a shot at Chastain when we're getting it at plus money. He's too good here. The speed is good. And Ross Chastain is a very aggressive race car driver just by nature. So I'm perfectly good with betting his top 10 here.
I love it. So Ross Chastain, top 10 finish plus 130 is my stage 1 pick. Ryan Blaney, top 5 finish plus 105 is Stevie's stage 1 pick. So that'll do it for stage 1. We're going to come in, get some fuel and some tires as we throw the green and white checkered on that stage. And before we move on to stage 2, don't forget to sign up for Action Pro for real-time pick alerts from experts like Brandon Anderson, Chris Raybon-Stuckey, and our entire Action Network team. Plus, you can access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner, myself, and our predictive analytics team. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and get $20 off the annual price with the promo code POD20. So don't miss out on the best bets at the best prices. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro and use promo code POD20. That's POD20 to get $20, off a year of Action Pro. All right, we're into stage 2 here, Stevie, and you are going to an RFK car.
Yeah, so I had been debating all morning on taking this, and I got this at plus 260 on Hard Rock, and I know FanDuel has it at plus 360, but I'm going to go to Ryan Preece for a top 10. And I debated all morning and how good he was last weekend. Like, realistically, I thought Ryan Preece, no cautions, green flag pit stops, had a legit chance to win that race. He was third. He was running them down. He was really good at the end of that race. And if you think back to New Hampshire, he was like a borderline top 15 car in New Hampshire. And then you were talking about the point situation. People don't understand, there's a lot of money difference in 16th and 17th and 18th and that kind of stuff. It's millions of dollars. So That's why they're in court right now, but we're not even going to get into all that stuff. But like, it's very important. And like, he's kind of locked into 18th unless Busher, like you said, has an issue. But it's just going back to this race is coming up right away in 2026. Ryan Preece is having a great year. RFK definitely needs a win. I don't even necessarily need him to win this race. I'm taking him for a top 10 bet. If we look at his speed here at this racetrack, I mean, earlier this year, he was 13th in speed. And like, okay, that's putting us in a position where he finished 15th in that race. He was one of the drivers that used option tires early and was able to maintain the track position throughout the day, and then got kind of messed up a little bit with that caution that like some people were pitting and stuff like William Byron. But yeah, I'm going to go to Ryan Preece here, top 10. Like I said, I got this at plus 260 on Hard Rock. And then you can get this at FanDuel if you're in a state with FanDuel at plus 360. But yeah, I like Ryan Preece a lot coming into the week, and just through our conversations of the podcast, like the Ford conversation in general, I think there's some value in the Ford market right now.
Yeah, I really like plus 360 for that top 10. And I don't even hate an upside sprinkle on a top 5 at 12-1. Traditionally in the Championship 4, something happens to one of our Championship 4 drivers, whether it's, Christopher Bell, I think had an engine go or something like that. And, or we had tire mix-ups on some cars in the past, right? Traditionally, there'll be about a little less than one car on average that has an issue at Phoenix in the Championship 4. So that's, opens up 2 spots. Occasionally, we have one that runs just not fast enough to finish inside the top 5. So that could be a potential extra spot opening up in the top 5. And with Ford being on their own agenda and Ryan Preece possibly slapping an upside, type of setup on here, and Busher maybe going conservative, Ryan Preece could legitimately catch Busher in points, even without Busher having an issue. Let's just say Busher has a mediocre day, finishes 16th and doesn't get any stage points, and Preece grabs stage points a couple times and finishes 5th. He might overtake Chris Busher. It could be close. So I think even a top 5 at 12-1 isn't out of the question. Definitely the plus 360 top 10 is the way to go. If you wanted to make one Ryan Preece bet, that's the clear path to go. But I honestly don't hate a little bit of an upside sprinkle with the way, these top 6 drivers that we've been talking about, the Championship 4 plus Bell and Blaney, have been absorbing a lot of the odds. So Ryan Preece, top 10, plus 260 for Stevie at Hard Rock, plus 360 if you have FanDuel is Stevie's stage 2 pick. For my stage 2 pick, I'm going to go to the guy you had in stage 1, Stevie. That's Ryan Blaney. I'll sprinkle him to win at 7-1, I believe is the best odds out there. Again, I haven't bet it yet, but I just need to do my full line shopping. I was a little busy yesterday. If you know me, I was a little bit busy yesterday, so haven't gotten a chance to fully line shop all the NASCAR stuff this week. But if 7-1 is longest out there on Blaney, I will be betting him 7-1 to win with a little sprinkle, just because, again, the Ford agenda, just go perform your best. And Ryan Blaney's best is arguably being the dominant car at Phoenix in the next gen era. If he was a Championship 4 driver, this number would be probably 4-1. He'd be shorter than Denny Hamlin, right? Or 3-1 even. So we're getting like a non-championship discount on Blaney, even though we probably shouldn't be, right? He just had the second dominant car at Martinsville, and he probably will have a top 1 or 2 car at Phoenix. And we're getting a price discount simply because he's not a Championship 4 contender. So I'll take Blaney 7-1 for the win.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about Blaney with the top 5 bet in stage 1 of the show, but I think I'm going to bet this too. I think that, again, I think there's some value in the Ford market, and I think you nailed it. Like, what would his odds be if he got in last week? I mean, he would be the clear favorite where Hamlin is right now at 4-1. So we're getting some nice value with him with a championship setup car. Like, you have to keep that in mind. Like, this Phoenix car that he's bringing this weekend is with the intention of like, hey, we got in at Martinsville where he's been very good, and like, we're going to come here and we're going to go and win. I mean, he was by far the best car speed wise at New Hampshire. Not too long ago at a track that's very comparable with a very, very similar tire setup. So, I mean, that's something else you need to keep in mind with Ryan Blaney heading into the race weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ryan Blaney to win 7-1. and Ryan Preece top 10 plus 360 are our stage 2 picks. So we'll throw the green and white checkered one last time on a stage. We'll drive through stage 3 as well. Cross victory lane for the final time in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. Heading to victory lane with our victory lane pick. Stevie, we're going to a championship contender. What do we have?
Yeah, we're going to William Byron to win the championship at plus 275. And be careful. Make sure that you're clicking the proper bet. We are not betting William Byron to win this race. That's plus 500 to plus 600 on most books. We are going to the NASCAR Cup Series playoff champion bet for William Byron at plus 275. Do I think William Byron has a chance to win this race? Of course I do. But I like the odds of him facing 3 drivers instead of the field. So, yeah, I mean, if we look at the championship 4, Byron has the best average finish here among the drivers. He was one of the best cars here earlier this year, and the caution came out in the green flag pit stop for him because I think it was Bubba Wallace at the wall or something. So, and then he was able to drive all the way back up into the top 5 at the end of that race in a very short amount of time. So, William Byron, very good here earlier this year. When we look at getting into New Hampshire and we're looking at the data for New Hampshire, well, guess what? He was one of the best cars at New Hampshire on his way to a 4th place finish, being the top finishing car or 3rd place finish, top finishing car of the guys that are in the championship. Larson finished 7th at New Hampshire. Denny Hamlin finished 12th. You talked about how we've had some short flat tracks where Toyota has kind of missed here lately. And then Briscoe finished 10th in that race. So, if we're looking at the closest comp, the most recent comp of New Hampshire, well, Byron beat them there too. So, obviously, earlier this year, Denny Hamlin finished 2nd, but William Byron finished 6th in that race, and he led 80 laps. He was one of the best cars the entire race, and he got hung out in a pit stop. So, I'm betting William Byron to win the championship at plus 275. Going back to our earlier conversation too, and I know you want to talk about this as well, but going back to the earlier conversation, you could bet a Larson or a Briscoe at plus 250 or plus 375 and get 50% and just kind of narrow it down. And if either one of them win, you make money. It's just whether how much risk to reward do you want to do this week for the championship?
Yeah, I mean, at any of these odds, you could bet 2 drivers, and if one of those 2 wins, make money. So it's a question of which 2 you want to pick. We're picking William Byron as one of them. And I agree with you. I'm a little concerned about Toyota from New Hampshire and from Martinsville, but also from their parts failures. I mean, they've been having parts failures left and right, engine failures or this, that, or the other. Denny Hamlin not being able to shift into gear, things like that. Just all these random gremlins have been popping up on these JGR Toyotas. And that's a little concerning. That's something you have to consider. And as we talked about, usually something happens to one playoff driver. And if it is going to happen, it seems at this point, it's more likely to happen to one of the JGR Toyotas than one of the Hendrick Motorsports Chevys. So William Byron has, like you said, he's been so good. He's driven through the field, like you talked about earlier this year. He's been really good at Phoenix and New Hampshire and Martinsville in the playoffs. So yeah, I like William Byron at plus 275. Look, if each of these 4 drivers was exactly 25% to win this championship, they'd all be 3-1. Because that's 25% is 3-1 in terms of implied odds. So what we're saying here is William Byron just has to be a little bit better than average. And, certainly Larson and Hamlin will be arguably better than average, but he's right there with them. And Briscoe is the one that gets the long odds here, but Briscoe's been amazing at Phoenix. This championship 4 is incredible. But I think plus 275 makes sense on Byron. And if you wanted to go plus 380 on Chase Briscoe at FanDuel, like you were talking about picking 2 drivers, throw a little on both and hope one of the 2 hits. But Stevie, we can't end the show just on that. We got to talk about our picks to win the championship. And I'm somewhat of a Denny Hamlin fan. I wouldn't say he's my favorite driver, but I do root for him. I would love to see him win his first championship. He's been going at it for, almost 2 decades now. He's come so close so many times with lots of heartbreak. So sentimentally, I'm rooting for Denny Hamlin as well. But my pick to win the championship, Stevie, is Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with this next gen car, it could be any of these four guys. I mean, obviously, I put money on Byron. I'm a Byron fan, but I'm also a Denny Hamlin fan. So, if it's not William Byron, I do think William Byron has the best chance when looking at the data. But if it's not William Byron, I'm very heavily rooting for Denny or Chase Briscoe. And I like Kyle Larson too, but I would love to see Chase Briscoe get this opportunity to be in a JGR car and win a championship. Chase Briscoe's a really good dude. Every time I've ever talked to him at the racetrack, he always takes the time to answer the questions that I have, and is just a really good dude, always super nice. But I mean, honestly, like at the beginning of the show, we talked about it. Like, I like all four of these guys. I think that all four of these guys deserve a championship. So, but I would Denny, just one of the best racers of our generation. And I'm so sick of the conversation of like, this guy can't win a championship. So I would love to see him win because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for William Byron. I really want to see Byron or Hamlin win a championship. And season long bets wise, I definitely want to see Hamlin or Briscoe win a championship because I have some money on Toyota manufacturer championship. So, but yeah, Denny would be cool. Byron would be cool. And then I like Briscoe and Larson too. So
yeah. I mean, look, for me, if you're watching on video, if you're watching on YouTube video, you've seen me look around. I'm trying to find it, but I don't have it. But you are seeing me drink my coffee that I drink every day. But Chase Briscoe, I went to Bob Pockrass's tweet up at the Las Vegas race last year. I believe it was the first Las Vegas race. It might have been the second, but either way, Chase Briscoe was the guest for that tweet up, and he saw me on my Casey Kane shirt, and he had to call me out like, "Oh, dude, I love your shirt." And so I didn't have anything for him to sign other than I was drinking my coffee, and so he signed my Starbucks cup, and I was like, "Have you ever signed a coffee cup before?" He was like, "No." So that was the first one. So I think I'm the only person in the world that has a signed Chase Briscoe Starbucks cup, and that's what I was looking around for, right? Because I have all my shenanigans here. I have my Chase Briscoe little thing from. I had to go buy something after that because I thought that was cool, so I had to buy a little Chase Briscoe merch. So I definitely root for Chase Briscoe as well, but I'm just excited for Phoenix. But a little sad the year is coming to an end, Stevie, because it's NASCAR. We love it. We love doing this, and we love bringing you bets. We love talking NASCAR. So just real quick, your reflections on the 2025 season.
Up and downs. I mean, I feel like it's been a year of up and downs. I feel like it's taken a lot to kind of adjust to this tire situation that we've had this year, where it's been like a new tire every single week, and you have guys that have been dominant at racetracks and get a new tire and they're like to not be found. So up and downs is how I would put this year. But I love talking NASCAR. I love talking NASCAR with you. You and I have talked NASCAR and bounced ideas off each other for a long time now. So I absolutely love talking racing with you in general, not just NASCAR. So, I mean, I am appreciative of everybody for hanging out with us all year and for the last couple of years. And hopefully we get to continue to do this again next year.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the 2026 season. I agree. Ups and downs, man. My year started off with a nice Daytona and then straight downturn, but then massive upswing. I had like a 40 unit upswing over a couple months. And then I've kind of slowly trickled off in the playoffs. Like you said, all the changing tire situations. We had a lot of races in the last maybe third or quarter of the year where like track history all of a sudden wasn't as useful as it was in the past. So that can always throw you for a loop, especially when NFL season comes around or baseball playoffs. And we got other things we're paying attention to, but it has been an absolutely fun season. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. We appreciate you listeners for listening. So that will do it for this episode, the NASCAR Championship Race episode of Running Hot, Action Network's Motorsports Betting Podcast. If you'd like to tail some of the bets we discussed today, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description. Go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. Also, a little birdie is telling me we are eyeing to be back with a Running Hot in a few weeks for a special Formula One episode the week November 16th to 22nd to talk bets for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. On behalf of my co-host, Stephen Young, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you hopefully in a few weeks for Formula One. Otherwise, hopefully in 2026 for more Running Hot from Action Network.